2021 just can't stop delivering, and yet again, we had another epic showdown for the win, more controversial beef between Mercedes and Red Bull, and to complete the 2021 trifecta, we had yet another fiery clash between Lewis and Max on the track. But hey, you don't hear me complaining, and at this rate, I'm kind of hoping that the 2021 season just never ends. Either way, in this video, we're not going to be talking about the off-track drama, but more so I'm going to be talking about that incident that almost took both of the drivers out of the race, and that caused a lot of talk and criticism towards the stewards by the fans. So yes, let's get into this one. So, as with every time that I have to analyze an on-track battle between Lewis and Max, let's not mess about and let's get straight into it. Now, for anyone that follows me on Twitter, you will know that my immediate thought, literally as I saw it, were that move cannot be legit. Now, we've seen both Lewis and Max, especially in 2021, have this philosophy of racing where if one of them gets their noses ahead, and especially if they then have the inside line, they don't even bother to give the other one room. They just wash out their steering, literally take their car to the white line, and basically run the other car off the road. Now, I actually talked about this in much more detail in the video that I did right after Lewis and Max crashed at Monza, so definitely go and give that one a watch, but the point is that this precedent has now been set, and this is the racing that has been allowed. The problem is that as aggressive as that kind of racing is, it still relies on the driver that's usually on the inside to keep it on the track and for the driver to be in control the entire time so that they are within the white lines. In my opinion, what we saw on lap 48 was not Max in control, so it definitely can't just be looked at like the rest of their battles this season. To me, however, the biggest surprise was that this incident wasn't even looked at by the stewards. Now, it's very important to note that even though people, like me to be fair, love a bit of banter over on Twitter about the stewarding and throw in Michael Masi's name in it, Michael Masi is not the race steward, he is the race director, which is why every single time you hear both Mercedes and Red Bull moan about something that they don't like, you'll hear him say over and over again that he'll pass that over to the stewards. It doesn't necessarily mean though that he's not involved in the decision making, but it isn't actually just him who makes the final decisions. Now, regardless, he's the one that usually takes the flak for any decisions made, and he's also the one that actually has to answer to the media about the reasoning for those decisions. After the race, Michael Masi was asked if the lack of any investigation showed a level of inconsistency with what we've been seeing so far this season, with his response being this: I disagree that it's inconsistent. You have a look at it, and I've said many times before you judge the incident on its merits, and you have a look at all of it, and let's not forget we have the overall let them race principles, and looking at it with all of the angles that we had available, it was that philosophy that was adopted. He was then asked to expand on what the let them race principle actually meant in the context of an incident like this. If you look at the proximity of the cars heading into the corner, where it is, the nature of the corner, the fact that both cars went off, neither car lost their position or anything like that, that was probably the general view. Now, that was a bit of a strange quote to try and untangle to really get what he means, but the 10-second explanation of what all of that means to me anyway is that the stewards basically decided that because there wasn't a collision and because Hamilton was right on the back of Verstappen's tail afterwards, they basically said no harm, no foul, and just let them keep going without a penalty needing to ruin or alter something, which hopefully they can resolve on the track themselves. Now, something else that has emerged since is that Max Verstappen's onboard footage was not available to the stewards at the time of the incident. Now, this is a weird one because that's a pretty critical piece of evidence that the FIA should have had, and the reason why it's important is that it would show if Verstappen actually tried to make the corner, or if he simply just opened his steering knowing that he was going to go off the track to try and take Hamilton with him. What's even more strange is that when the stewards note an incident and when they decide explicitly not to investigate it, it means that they don't even look at either the steering trace or any other piece of telemetry. So clearly, although the whole missing the onboard footage situation is still very strange to me, and to be honest, I still want to see it because I want to see Max's steering inputs, the stewards clearly decided very early on that they just did not want to investigate it because they felt in their eyes that it would be worth more to just let them race. Now, I do get where the stewards are trying to come from in a sense, because when we get penalties decide wheel-to-wheel battles, and then especially when they decide battles for the lead, the fans usually don't like to see it. For example, Canada 2019 with Seb and Lewis, and even Austria 2019 with Max and Charles when there was an investigation after the race. It's difficult to judge what the right line is between not having penalties interfere too much with the fight for the win, but still making sure that the racing is clean. However, having said all of that, although I understand why the stewards did what they did, I don't agree with it. I genuinely think that in F1, especially when it comes to hard racing and then incidents that are possibly over the line, I feel like there's some kind of top team privilege that allows them to get away with more than anyone else because that's where everyone's attention is, and it's better for the race to be resolved on the track and not because of a penalty. Leclerc not leaving a car with and forcing Hamilton off the track in Monza in 2019 is still the biggest example that I'll always go back to. But this was arguably even worse because after watching it back with all of the available angles that we have, to me there has to be some kind of penalty for misjudging your braking, which Max did, and then literally forcing your opponent off the track who definitely was going to make the corner. Now, in a way, I must be honest, my frustration isn't so much with Max because when you put yourself in his shoes, you can see why he would rather brake late with the knowledge that he might not make the corner and then might also push Hamilton wide. Max has less to lose. He's ahead in the championship and it's Lewis who has everything to risk and gain. In Max's head, he's not just going to let Lewis steam around the outside, and especially when there's a nice runoff area on the outside, it's better to risk running both of themselves wide and then dealing with a potential penalty afterwards. That's just a racing driver's mentality in that situation, and that's also Max's ultra-aggressive mentality which we've seen more and more in 2021. My problem is that this move was just over the line. Yes, it's for the race lead, and yes, it's controversial, but the stewards needed to set some kind of marker. It doesn't matter that Lewis then did overtake Max to win the race because incidents like these need to be viewed as single events. There's no doubt that to me this shows a clear inconsistency in the penalties that are given to either drivers that are fighting for the win or that are fighting lower down. I mean, a prime example is Austria this year when both Lando Norris and Sergio Perez were given 5-second penalties, and that's when they actually made the corner but forced a driver when they were sufficiently alongside them. And again, in this scenario, Max didn't even make the corner when Lewis was alongside him. I also think that more than anything else, it sets a very dangerous precedent going forward for the rest of the grid because if you see stuff like this go unpunished, well then who's to say that now everyone will try to steam into a corner late on the brakes, and if you don't actually make the corner and if you push the driver on the outside wide, who cares? If Max can get away with it fighting for the win, well then why can't I get away with it fighting for P6 or P13? That to me is the biggest problem. By not even bothering to investigate it, and technically by not even bothering to look at it, the stewards have now opened themselves up to even more criticism in the future when a car in the midfield will end up in the same position. Now, in terms of what penalty I think should have been given, I think the stewards should have just told Max to hand the position back because he held onto it by forcing another driver off the road when he himself wasn't fully in control of his car. To put it simply, I don't think there was a need for a time penalty like a 10-second or a 5-second because it was the type of incident where Max held onto a place by doing something illegal, and so therefore just hand the position back to Lewis. And let's keep racing without the need to do any time calculations for the rest of the race. It's always a difficult one when it comes to Lewis and Max racing because I've defended their hard racing in 2021 because that's the precedent that's been set. This to me, however, was a step too far, but more than anything else, I think the stewards showing a lack of interest to even investigate it is probably the biggest mistake of all. Anyway, there you have it. That is the end of this video. Now, of course, let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below. I'm sure it's going to be absolute carnage down there, and I can't wait for it. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, then don't forget to drop a like, and of course, smash that subscribe button as well to support the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.